so because there is no presentation or anything. We keep chatting till we are done, we are tired, or we run out of time.
Okay.
And the way I started this early on, because this was an evening hour where, the weather gets a little bit better for us to step out and, go for an evening walk or something. Some people were on the treadmill or whatnot. So I said, rather than just listening to some music or whatnot, why not just discuss amongst ourselves things which are of relevance to us?
Makes sense.
So that is why we did something which is, the format was just like what we are talking, like, something very casual. No, you don't have to quote any research, like even for clinical topic when we discuss. If you are quoting research, that's fine, but you don't necessarily have to. My original motive was to learn the patterns that people follow and the rationale why they follow that pattern, because many of the times we kind of assume that our thought process aligns with the other person's thought process, not realizing that the other person may have some other insight to it. So, and it did give us a lot of insights about how other people think when it comes to clinical decision making and non-clinical as well, truly speaking. Dr. Johan, good evening. How are you?
I'm just waiting. I hope. I think I'm late.
Yes, you're audible, and
Okay.
I'm also waiting for a little bit of quorum, and then.
Yeah, sure, no problem. Today is an exciting session, very important session. The reason why we all work so hard.
yeah, right.
One of the most uniting principles in life.
Yes.
Not acknowledged, but it's the thing which runs through runs through everybody, family members, groups, societies, countries, whatever.
Yeah.
So I think it's a very important.
Yeah, I tell people that humanity is good, but it doesn't pay the bills. So we do talk about all this, but then at some point we have to understand we have to pay the bills as well.
How to pay in an efficient manner and over a long-term period while remaining happy also.
Right.
And also investing in others' happiness. I think that's hopefully what I'm planning to hear today.
Yes, and hopefully we will be able to deliver that to you.
Sure, great.
We'll see. Okay, so far we have got Dr. Yudhishthir, Dr. Adarsh, we have got Dr. Prithvi, Johan sir, Kicho, I don't know his first name, Dr. Lavanya.
This is Dr. Aman here. I know. Dr. Aman here.
Welcome, sir. Welcome. How are you?
At least there is something different from what we do every day.
Yes.
Yeah. Good. So I will have some inputs in this regard because I have been into this kind of stuff for some time now, but I will tell the good experiences and the bad experiences.
Perfect. Nice.
Which the financial planners will never tell you.
Well,
they will only.
That's right.
Yeah.
Aman, if I may.
Yeah.
Keep the really good stuff for your very close friends, please. Don't share it.
Okay.
So I'm still waiting for Praneeth. We are kind of reaching the time, but for some reason Praneeth has not joined. So let me just reach out to him. So maybe a minute or two more, and then we'll get started. So by the way, for people who are online right now, I am recording all these sessions and I'm posting it on a podcast, which is Castbox, where you can search the weekly huddle. I'm not doing a good job right now. I'm just in the testing process, but whichever session in the past as well, if you want a recording of it, you can just let me know and I will post it on the Castbox, which you will be able to access through any phone app or even through the computer, and you'll be able to download those episodes. Again, they're not very refined because this is a live recording, and that's what I posted without any editing. So it's not really a very refined video, but it will give you a total narrative of what we discussed.
No, meanwhile, if there are about 15 people,
Yeah.
you know them, you can just give a brief one line introduction. Who's who?
Yes.
Because we don't know most of the people now
Yes.
logging in. Or one by one, they can probably just speak out a line about, who they are and where they are working so that we know them all.
Perfect. So let me actually get started. Praneeth is going to join in a minute or so. I just called him. So let me get started, and then once Praneeth joins, he can continue with that. So official welcome to the weekly huddle. This is every Wednesday chat session, which is essentially just talking random stuff about what we do, what we practice. With me, my co-host is Dr. Praneeth. He is a cardiologist at Care Banjara as well. I myself am a cardiologist at Care Banjara. And we both kind of work together and work on this as well. And Praneeth has joined now. So typically we have about 20 to 30 attendees for this session. And few of them are from Care, few of them are from outside Care. And I will be guilty of telling you that even I myself don't personally know all of them. So I'll just tell you a few names that I know. And then I would request others, whenever you have a question, that please, or even if you don't have a question, please unmute yourself and tell us a little bit about you so that we know who you are. So I'll just go through the list here. Dr. Praneeth has joined, as I said. My colleagues at Care, Dr. Johan, he's a cardiologist at Care Banjara, and he also works at Mushirabad. Dr. Aman, he is a cardiologist working at Care Nampally. Dr. Raghu, I don't know if he's able to hear me or not. Dr. Raghu is a very senior cardiologist at Care Banjara. So these are people from Care team. Dr. Praveen is there, and we typically have two Dr. Praveen. So I hope I'm getting the correct Dr. Praveen. Dr. Praveen Negula, if he is, he's an assistant professor of cardiology at Osmania General Hospital. And Dr. Prithvi has been joining us for quite some time in our sessions. Okay, so that's Dr. Praveen. That's a different Dr. Praveen. Praveen just joined. He is an assistant professor cardiology. He was with us at Care before. And then those are all the people I know personally. And then I know a lot of the attendees from the huddle itself, but I don't know them personally. Nagarjuna just joined. He is a resident of cardiology at Care Banjara. So with this, I'm going to get started. Let me introduce you to the guest today. My guest is Dr. Vijay Pava. He is Bangalore based. He was my senior at All India Institute of Medical Sciences. He did his MBBS there, and he did his MD in ophthalmology. So he is as much of a doctor as all of us are. And then for some reason, maybe he got a lightning or a stroke or something, whatever you call it. He switched his gears and did MBA from IIM Ahmedabad and entered into the corporate world, where he worked with McKinsey and then various other companies. And now finally, he's professionally retired. He's working as an investment consultant to doctors and to corporates. He is a registered SEBI investor. So he has got like that touch of what doctors do, how doctors think, and also how investment should work. He's very active on Twitter. He has got a Twitter handle, which I will share it with you guys in the chat box. And I will also share with you his phone number in case if you want to discuss with him something offline, you can do that as well. So when I was looking at people who would tell us about how investment should work for doctors, I could not think of a better person than Vijay. So because I think he has got both the elements as well, and he is of the same age group as us. He's not very senior, so he knows the current ins and outs of how investment works. And because this is not a clinical topic, we really don't have a lot of insight ourselves. So I'll directly start with Vijay. Typically, I start with Praneeth with a clinical topic. But here, because we are as ignorant and illiterate about this, I will directly start with Vijay. So, Dr. Vijay, welcome to the weekly huddle, and we cannot wait to hear from you what you have to add.
Thank you, Dr. Noor.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, please go ahead. Yeah.
So, Vijay, we can do it two ways. You can give us a brief rundown, about 5-7 minutes, of what you think doctors should know, or we can ask you leading questions and then we can continue with the discussion the way you want to do.
So we can keep it interactive. I will keep asking questions and you can keep interrupting me.
Okay.
Okay. So let me start.
Please do that.
Okay. So talking about investment, whenever you do something, you have a goal in mind, right? So the problem is most people don't have a goal why they are doing an investment. They just put some money in FD or put some money in mutual funds, and some people have some number in mind, like 5 crores, 3 crores, something like that. So that's why now there is a term, something called financial independence. Now, how you define financial independence is that you at least have 30 times your annual expense as your corpus. So if your annual expense in 2030 will be, say, 40 lakhs. So at that time, to achieve financial independence, you will need 12 crores. So if anything, if the amount is less than 30x, then you are likely to end the amount during your retirement. Let us say during your after you have left the job, your amount will finish off before it's likely to end, premature ending. So for example, today suppose you have 2 crores. Most people think that 2 crore is a lot of money, right? And your annual expense is 20 lakhs. And suppose today you are 60-year-old and you stop working. Now, if your annual expense is 20 lakhs with inflation, in 10 years, your annual expense will be 30 lakhs. And this 2 crore will end, the money will deplete to zero in around 7 to 8 years' time. So today you are 60-year-olds and you have 2 crores. You stop working today. By the time you are 67 or 68, or at the best 70 years old, this 2 crore will become total zero. So unless you have 30 times your annual expense as a corpus, you can't call yourself as financial independent. Right. So when I was doing MD, from AIIMS in ophthalmology, I was in second year. I had my colleague who was a fellow JR, and he used to tell me, and I was investing in stock market at that time. He was also investing in the stock market, and we were earning like 20,000 per month. That was the monthly salary. Right now, I think it's around 80,000 or 90,000 per month, or near 1 lakh. So out of 20,000 per month, we used to save around 5,000 per month and invest like 20-30,000 every few months in the market. Now my fellow friend, he told me a very good thing. He told me that you make money in stock market, you need two things. One, you need capital, and second, you need time. So if you invest at 50 years of age, it will take 10 to 15 years to grow. So by the time you are like end of life, by that time you will have sizable corpus. But if you invest at 25 years of age or 30 years of age, you will reach a sizable corpus at 40-45 years of age. But to earn high amount at an early age, you can't do that in medicine. Right? You have to change your profession. That's the only way out, because at that time in 2008, 2006, if I was earning, even in private practice, fresh JRs were getting like 25,000 per month at that time. and a doctor who did a MBA and joined McKinsey, he got a salary of 20 lakhs per year. That was like 10 times what a doctor was getting. So I decided to do the same thing, that let me do a 1 year MBA and let me join McKinsey. And I did that. So let's talk about 2010 when I joined McKinsey. I saved around 80% of my salary. So my annual income went from 2 lakhs to 20 lakhs, but my annual expense, it remained at 2 lakhs. So with my wife's income, we were saving around 30-35 lakhs per year in 2010. So by 2013, and we had accumulated around 1.5 crores. Right. So at that time, I was around 31 year old, and I was 100% invested in the markets, and I was mostly in small cap stocks, not in the large cap stocks, not in mutual funds. And when Modi got elected and the huge rally came, my 1.5 crores, it went up 4 times in 1 year. So in 4 times, my in 1 year, my 1.5 crore became 6 crores. So by 2014 end, my portfolio value was around 6 crores. And I mean, and then again, it went further up, and today, I mean, it is much higher than that. But the point I am saying is that if I had continued medicine at that point of time, I would have started saving today when I am near 40. And if I start saving today, I will make money by 50 years of age. And who needs money at like 50 or 60 years of age? I mean, you have a certain life, you got only one life, right? If you make money too late, if you make money by 65 years of age, it's of no use. So the point is that start early, save big, and invest right. So this usually, I mean, makes more sense for the people working in the corporate world. The issue with doctors is that they start earning late. They don't earn. I mean, in the first they start earning by like around 40-45 years of age, decent amount of money, and they don't retire. So in corporate world, usually people retire at 55 years or 60 years of age. But doctors, they think that they will work till like 70-75 years of age. So they don't have an issue of retirement. And third thing is, a lot of doctors earn in cash. I mean, India, it's a practice that you don't pay full income tax if you are running in cash. And if you're running in cash, people invest in real estate and gold. I mean, it's well known that in real estate, like 50-60% payment is done in cash instead of white. So, and in stock market, you can't invest with cash. You have to invest only white money. So that's another reason that doctors don't find a favor with in stock market. If you see me, most of my clients are not doctors. So doctors also like to build their own practice. So they invest money for their own clinic, for their own center, and they don't have extra money which they want to invest in market. So far in my journey, I've been a full-time investor for the last 5 years. So far in my journey, I haven't found doctors to be good clients. Doctors are, I would say, poor investors compared to the rest of the people who are MBAs or who are from IIT and from working in the corporate sector, because because of these reasons, doctors are earning late, earning in cash, building their own practice, building their own center. Equity markets, they don't suit them in general. So any questions? I mean, this is my first part. I will talk about how to invest later. Any views from your side?
Praneeth, you have something to get started with, and then we'll go one by one.
Yeah. Hi, Vijay. This is Praneeth. Firstly, congratulations with whatever decision that you took in your life, and you are doing great. My small suggestion is those numbers really look large and intimidating. So my humble suggestion is instead of that 7-digit number, if you can probably quote your examples with 5-digit numbers, we probably can all understand or probably relate to ourselves. Those 7-digit numbers really look big to us and intimidating. And as you rightly said, we unfortunately have stuck to the medical profession, and we have just started earning, and we are in almost late 30s and close to 40s. Most of the people in this group, and of course, few of them are plus 40s here, but majority in that 35 40s range, and we have our salaries in the 5-digit range. So for someone like us whom we begin, like everyone understands that we have to invest and we have to start early, but the inertia of doing the investment, that insecurity that you need money for some emergencies and all those things. So this all started with me recently reading one of the books, Let's Talk Money by Monica Hallan. Probably you would be knowing that. And this is where myself and Anup were having a chat, and they said most of us will be having. So interesting things were there in this book, and rightly, if we have to start, someone who can at least save few thousands. So how do you suggest us where do we start? Because the investment language is all completely Greek and Latin to us. So where do we start and how do we look into it, and what are the few things which probably
Yeah. So Praneet, let me start with giving a small example.
Dr. Vijay,
Yeah.
yeah. I will add a few more inputs before you
Sure.
answer, so that we just have a bigger platform to discuss kind of
Yeah.
thing. First of all, your statement that doctors are underpaid no longer holds. Any guy in this country who has finished his cardiology training or medicine training, the salary structure starts now in any corporate hospital is minimum 1.5 lakhs. Okay, and
Yeah.
most of the time, if you would notice, 90% of the doctors get married to doctors. Okay,
Yeah.
so you add, and if your wife is a gynecologist, probably she makes more money than you, a
Yeah.
gynecologist or a radiologist. So you add another 1 lakh, even if I'm, at the wrong end of it, that, the wife earns less than the husband. So 2.5 lakhs per month is not a small amount anymore. The 20,000 which you are talking about is long back. Okay. And the point of the 20,000 15 years back was probably equivalent to 1 lakh of now. Okay, so 2.5 lakhs is not a small amount for people not to have money to invest. Okay,
Yeah.
and second thing you had mentioned that doctors earn black money. The black money part is only with doctors who have their own clinics or hospitals.
Yes.
Now, anybody working in a corporate nowadays doesn't get a single penny of black money. So, so there is no shortage of white money with doctors even after paying their taxes to invest. The third thing is, like you said that you invested a small amount of money and you started investing in stocks, and you specifically mentioned small cap stocks. Now,
Yeah.
I don't know how much the other people know about the stock market. The most dangerous stocks to invest your hard money, earned money, is in small caps. Okay, small caps are companies which are probably have a total, at your time maybe 50 crore company or a 20 crore company or a 30 crore company, which at many point of times any Tom, Dick, and Harry would have borrowed from the bank at that point of time, bribing a manager, opening up a company, and just one fine day not paying up the loans and vanishing off with all your
Yeah.
hard-earned money put into small cap companies. So even you being an investment manager and a portfolio consultant, you would know that any good investment guy would never tell you to invest all your money in a small cap. Probably if you are investing 100 rupees, no one would recommend you to put more than 10 or 15 rupees in a small cap mutual fund, or a mutual fund small cap also means they're investing in small caps now. So small cap investment, although it may give you phenomenal returns, but on the flip side, it could turn out to be zero. there have been companies which stock was 200 rupees. Today, if you see them, they are not even listed on the market. So small cap suggestion, I would take it with a big pinch of salt and pepper. For a new investor, you have to be really, really good, and you have to have a good financial. You have to read into the financials of the company. You have to see their last 5 years performance. You have to see the kind of loans they have taken. You have to see whether the promoter has put in his money or it is all bank loans. So there are a lot of things involved in selecting a small cap company, which is even very difficult for very big advisors.
So Aman sir,
So
Aman sir, let me just interrupt you here
so
for a second. Let me
yeah,
just
so I
interrupt you
just
here for a
wanted you
second.
to.
Yeah,
That was little controversial, I felt. Okay.
Aman sir, let me interrupt you for a second.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
again, I'm not defending anybody. Vijay never said, never suggested to invest in a small cap company. He
No,
just
no,
said,
he said he invested
listen,
in a small. He
Aman sir,
invested. No, no,
Aman sir,
Anup. Then
we
you
have a
should let
limited
other
time.
people also speak. Otherwise,
Aman
there's no
sir,
point. No.
Aman sir, we
Uh,
only have limited time. So,
yeah, yeah,
we have to let the guy speak. Vijay simply
uh,
said he invested in small cap
yeah,
in 2009. There was no
yeah.
further discussion after this.
No,
Further
no. He said he
discussion.
invested in a small cap company, and
Listen.
his money grew
Aman sir,
by so many times,
Aman sir,
multiple. Yeah.
I may have to mute you for this. Listen, he
No, you
has
can
to,
mute anybody. I can even
Aman
exit,
sir,
but
Aman sir,
that's what he said.
He has to speak further about it, right?
Yeah,
He
yeah,
has
yeah.
to
No, no.
speak
I just
further on
wanted
it.
to
We
make
are
it
not on a
because he
debate.
specifically named only small cap.
This is not a panel debate.
There's
I'm
no
sorry.
point in arguing. No, we are not
Aman
fighting. We are just
sir,
discussing.
No, no. So
Aman
I
sir,
agree with
this
you.
is
Yeah.
No, no,
not.
I agree with you.
Vijay, please go
So
ahead.
small caps, only 5 out of 100 stocks will make you money.
Vijay, we will go on the small cap. Could you please start with what Praneeth said, and then we'll go on what the small
Yeah, yeah,
cap and large cap
yeah.
is, because we need
Sure,
to
sure.
understand what is going on rather than saying what I think is right. So please tell us what you think.
Yeah. So first to Praneeth's point.
Hmm.
So when my father he bought a plot in 1980 in Delhi for 3,000 rupees. Okay, at that time 3,000 rupees was a big amount in 1980, very big amount. That is worth 4.5 crores today. Okay, so the value of money depreciates very fast. I mean, in even in 1990s, you could buy a plot in Delhi, North Delhi, for like 30 lakhs. Today it is for 3 crores. So in 1990, if you used to say somebody that 10 lakhs, I have 10 lakhs, or we should invest 10 lakhs here, he would say 10 lakh is a very big amount. Please don't talk to me in lakhs. Please talk to me in thousands. Okay, today 1 lakh rupee is a small amount. If anybody among us loses 1 lakh rupees tomorrow, nothing will happen. But if in 1990, if you lose 1 lakh rupees, it is a fortune. It is like 3 years or 2 years of earnings in 1990s. So today you are earning 20, 30, 40 lakhs per year. Okay, and you think 1 crore is a decent amount. You think, right? Today 1 crore is a decent amount. 10, 20 years from now, 1 crore will be nothing. When you did your MBBS, right? I mean, I'm around late 30s. So in 1990s or early 2000, when we did our MBBS, 5 to 10 lakhs was a very decent amount. 10 lakhs is a big money. Today, 10 lakhs is what? Two months of salary, 3 months of salary. The world changes every 20 years. So today you are saying 10 crore is a very big goal. I cannot see having 10 crore. I mean, it's a very big amount. 20 years from now, every other guy will have 10 crores. People will be earning in 1 crore, 2 crore. That will be the salary. Like 2 crore will be annual salary. Today, if you do a MBA from Ahmedabad, a 25-year-old guy starting salary is 45 lakhs per year. And if you are able to join Google or Amazon, the starting salary is around 1 crore for a 25-year-old guy. Okay, so don't think that 10 crores is a very big amount. I mean, it's a big amount, but it's not very big. So think big and have a big goal. If you don't think 10 crores, you will never achieve 10 crores. And if you don't achieve 10 crores, the issue is, I mean, doctors continue to earn till 70, 75. But if you want to retire after 60, or if it's due to some physical issues, right, you have to retire, then you need 10 crores. The second thing is, investment. No, investment is a very, very big thing, Investment can change life. Now, if I know that there's a very good stock which can go 10 times in 7 years, let us say I know it. That information itself is worth 1 crore. That information. Because if I invest 2 crores in that stock, I will make 20 crores in 7 years. I am ready to pay you 1 crore if you can give me that information for definite. And nobody will give you this information for free. Okay. So if you want to invest your money, you have to do a lot of hard work yourself. If you don't do hard work by yourself, you will make no money. Because nobody has an interest in making you money. If you make money, I mean, even if you give some small money to somebody else, that is nothing. Right? These mutual funds. So most people invest in equities through mutual funds. And what do mutual funds do? They will take you 2% every year. Right? Now, that's their expense ratio. So most mutual funds are charging around 2% every year as an expense ratio. Right? Now, 2% every year looks like a small amount to you. Right? Now, let us say you invest 50 lakhs today. Right? Now, 2% fees is 1 lakh rupees every year. But 50 lakhs will grow to 1 crore in 7 years or 8 years. And 2 crores in, let us say, 15 years. Now, if you compound this 2% every year, this will become around 40 to 50 lakhs in 15 years. Because the 1 lakh fees you gave this year to the mutual fund manager, that fees also will grow if you had not given it to him. If you had instead invested that 1 lakh in the market, that 1 lakh would have become 4 lakhs in 15 years. And next year also you will give 1 lakh. So over 15 years, the 15 lakh or 25 lakh fees you have paid, if you have not paid that fees to the mutual fund, you would be having extra 60 to 70 lakhs after a 15-year period. Now 60 to 70 lakhs over a 15-year period is a net savings for most of the people working in India. Right. So coming to small caps and large caps. So small caps have a higher failure rate, right? So if I have 10 small caps in my portfolio, I will assume that 3 will become 0. That's the minimum I would expect. And if I have large caps in my portfolio, it's not that large caps don't become 0. So Yes Bank, Indiabulls Housing, Satyam Computers, Reliance Capital, Reliance Infrastructure, BHEL, Tata Motors. These are all large cap names, and these are 80 to 90% down. Yes Bank was a large cap at 400 rupees. It is today at 10 rupees. Satyam Computer went from a large cap Nifty stock to a small cap. And there are, in Sensex in 1980, there are a lot of companies when Sensex started, like around 30, 40 companies. Most of those companies have become 0 today. In S&P, in the US markets, one of the biggest companies was General Electric, GE. Now, GE was such a brilliant company that it had Nobel Prize winners as its employees. So employees working for General Electric got Nobel Prize while working for the company. Today, General Electric is almost near 0. It was the biggest company in the world at one point of time. Okay, other very big companies which have gone to 0 are Nokia, BlackBerry, Kodak, Yahoo. Yahoo was one of the topmost companies in the year 99. Everybody had a Yahoo account. Today, Yahoo is near 0. Today, Apple is big. 20 years from now, Apple will be zero. Today, Google is big. 30 years from now, Google will be there or Google may not be there. We don't know. There may be some other new company and Google will become zero. Tomorrow, a new search engine comes, which is 5 times better than Google. People will stop using Google. Right? And there is no, I mean, tomorrow it can come, maybe 5 years from now it will come, maybe it will never come. But basically what I'm saying is even large caps fail. It's not that only small caps fail, both the stocks fail and both the stocks have a high failure rate, small caps have a higher failure rate. So every company would have a, you know, growth phase, stabilization phase and decline phase. So, you know, talk about Bombay Dyeing. You know, Bombay Dyeing was a Sensex company in 1980s. Today it is a small cap. Albert David Limited, it's a small pharma company of 200 crore market cap in Kolkata. In 1980, it was one of the biggest pharma company in India. It was a Sensex company. It was in the Nifty Sensex stock in 1980. Albert David. Today it is a 200 crore market cap company. So a lot of large caps become small caps, and there are the large caps which are today. They were small caps 20 years ago. So L&T was a small cap in 2000. It became a large cap in 2007. And today it is remained a large cap, but it has given zero returns for last 10 years. So large caps will have, you know, failure rates, growth issues, and they will also decline. It's not that only small caps decline. A lot of big companies have declined in the past.
So Vijay, I will interrupt you here for a second. We'll go very specific discussion, and then any questions with regard to those specificities, I will welcome from the audience. So let me ask you first question, and I would request you to be as precise as possible. So you started your discussion saying that our corpus fund for personal growth, for personal expenditure should be 30 times our annual expenditure.
That should be the target. That should be the minimum target.
That I'm guessing you are basing on a typical retirement age of 55, 60, I'm guessing, right?
Yeah. Yes.
So for a doctor, would you revise that number? Would you say that that should be not 30 times, but maybe a little bit lesser, or that's unfair to say?
See, that's a personal choice. Okay, so as a doctor, do you want to earn for money, and do you want to earn hectic hours for the rest of your life?
Okay.
Right. So it's a personal, and if you're a surgeon, right? So you know, I'm an eye doctor. I'm an ophthalmologist. Okay. Now I have high myopia. My myopia number is -6. Okay. Now I am at a high risk of retinal detachment at any point of my life.
Right.
And older I grow, older the risk of retinal detachment.
Right.
Right. Now, if I get retinal detachment, I will never be able to do eye surgery for the rest of my life.
Right.
Because eye surgery requires binocular vision.
Right.
Right. Similarly, other cardiac surgeon may, if you develop, say, tremors in your hand, essential tremors, will you be able to do surgery again?
Right. Right. So I think one way to kind of get the message across is that you look at your risk profile in terms of what do you think till what time you will work. Like I'm an interventionist, and if I'm already having back pain right now because of all the leg and standing, then I know I may not function as well after, let's say, 10, 15 years. So I may have to put a corpus fund much larger as compared to, let's say, my colleague who is otherwise fit and fine and who I can potentially think and work hard.
Being a doctor, we know we can suffer from any kind of disease at any point of time.
Right.
Right, there are autoimmune disease, there are eye disease. I mean, there are 100 kinds of disease which anybody can get at any point of time, and there is no surety that one will be able to, you know, operate functionally after 60 years of it. There is no guarantee.
Right. So Vijay, we'll switch this topic, and I'll just answer one question that somebody posted. The question is, can the same be repeated once again regarding the surplus? So Praveen, what was discussed was, and Dr. Vijay, please correct me if I'm wrong, what was discussed was, when we look at our aim in terms of how much money we want to save, a good rule of thumb is we should try to aim for a corpus fund which is 30 times that of your annual expenditure. So let's say if your annual expenditure is 20 lakh, then you should aim to save about 6 crores, so that by the time when you retire, you have that 6 crore money.
No. No. So you are talking
Not that.
annual expenditure of today,
Okay.
right? If your
Uh.
annual expenditure today is 20 lakhs
Huh.
and your retirement age is 20 years from now,
Hmm.
you have to consider annual expense 20 years from now.
Plus inflation. Plus, okay. Annual expense 20 years from now. Okay. So annual expense in 2000, let's say 40, what my annual expense will be, and you
Yeah.
multiply it by 30, that should be my target. And
Yes.
that 30 can vary based upon what my personal preference is, whether I want to retire at 55 versus I want to continue working till 70, or whether I think I have some risk factor which may put me at some disability state early on, and in that case, I may have to save it a little bit more. That kind of sums the deal, Vijay.
Yes, and
More or
also
less.
personal preference. So some
Right.
people, may like to do something else in life.
Right. So Vijay, we are going to go again. We'll switch gears here. We'll go to specific questions. First of all, lot of us, I believe, we know what you were talking, but just for the completion's sake, if you could give one line answer, what is a small cap? What is a large cap?
So there's no strict definition. I mean, there's small cap, mid cap, and large cap, right? So anything like more than 30 or 40,000 crore, you can consider the large cap, and 5,000 to 30,000 crore, you can consider the mid cap, and less than 5,000 crore, you can consider as a small cap.
So you mean less than 5,000 crore as the total company's evaluation that you would consider, who is listed publicly, that you would consider is a small cap?
Yeah, and one should not consider less than 100 crore. See, less than 100 crore market cap is micro cap. It's not small cap. There is a micro and nano cap also.
Okay.
There are companies which have, like, Symphony. I will explain you. So Symphony went bankrupt in the year 2007. The stock was for rupees 1 only. The market cap was something like 20 crore. Okay, but the company turned, and the stock price went from rupees 1 to rupees 3,000 by 2015. Symphony is now one of the biggest air cooler company in India.
Okay.
Right. So these kind of turnarounds are like 1 in 1,000.
Okay.
So one should not invest in nano cap. So one should invest. See, I will explain you. You invest where you know the details of everything about the company.
Okay.
You read the past 5-year annual reports. Right. You understand the business. You verify the business. You can verify the business. See, there are LinkedIn. If there's a technology company, okay, technology companies, you go to LinkedIn, you take the LinkedIn premium membership.
Okay.
You can see the employees who are joining the companies and how many new employees are joining the companies past 1 year, and what are the profiles of the people who are joining the company.
Okay.
So you know the company is real or not, and what kind of employees they hire. You go to Glassdoor. So Glassdoor is a employee review site. Okay, you will search. There you will know what the employees have an opinion about the company. See, in this online world, you can get all the information of the company if you want, if you spend time studying it.
Okay.
Right? Employee reviews, customer reviews. LinkedIn will give you, new employees, new jobs. If company has posted new jobs in past 6 months, you can search it. You will get information on Google. Right. What is company hiring? How many? Like in last 6 months, some company have been hiring. You can search that new jobs posted by this company, and you will get what all and what kind of jobs they are hiring. On Twitter, you can search their employee reviews. You can connect to an employee. On LinkedIn, you can connect to a company employee, or on Twitter, you can connect to a company employee and ask him, how is your company doing?
Okay. And those are, you think, good strategies to learn about company? They are valid strategies to learn about company before.
There was this company called Saregama. They introduced this Caravan.
Caravan, yes. Radio.
You go to Chroma, ask the sales guy, how is your Caravan selling? How many people are buying? Are people buying this, or are people buying competitors' brand? Is your sales picking up? You go to 3 Chroma in your city.
Right.
The information is on it. You have to do hard work.
Right. Vijay, I have another question for you. And again, this is something you can start very basic, but I would again request you to sum it up. What is equity? What is mutual fund? Just give us an idea about what these technical terms are.
So mutual funds are, mutual funds are a platform where you invest through a professional fund manager, and he invests mostly in different kind of stocks, and he takes a 2% per year fees from you. You
Okay.
don't have any control on the types of stocks you invest in.
Right. You just give
Okay.
your money. You just give your money to somebody who can invest it in various companies,
Stocks.
right?
Now there is an issue here. The issue is that mutual funds have a large AUM.
Okay.
Okay, you open any mutual fund portfolio.
Hmm.
You will find Reliance Industries, you will find ITC, you will find HDFC Bank, you will find L&T, you will find these all these top stocks.
Mm-hmm.
So they are all investing in common stocks.
Right.
Because as a mutual fund manager, I don't have the risk taking capability.
Okay.
I have to invest where everybody is investing.
Mm-hmm.
Suppose tomorrow HDFC Bank goes up. Now if I don't have HDFC Bank, my mutual fund will not perform.
Right.
I will not get my bonus, and my board will fire it. That why did you not invest in HDFC Bank when everybody has invested in it? See, other mutual fund managers are investing in HDFC Bank. The price is going up. So there, and the salary and bonus of mutual fund managers are in crores. Prashant Jain, who is the manager of HDFC Mutual Fund, he has made 250 crores in salary in last 7 years.
Okay.
That is his salary. 250 crores. He makes around 20 crores per year. Okay. Now, if he doesn't have stocks which are doing well, he will not get that 20 crore per year. Right. So he has to invest in stocks where everybody else is investing. So when Satyam Commuter fraud was there, a lot of mutual funds have Satyam Commuter because Satyam Commuter was doing very well. Right. If you don't have the hot stock in your portfolio, you will underperform the market. And if you underperform the market for 1 year, next year you will not get the bonus.
Right. And you said that these mutual companies, they have a very high annual, what you call it, expense ratio or something like that, right?
Yeah. So they have 2% expense ratio. So 2% will look small money to you.
But over the time, it is significant.
Yeah. You multiply 2% into 15, it becomes 30%.
Right. And then you add inflation to that.
And that you have to compound also because it is growing every year. So 30% becomes 50%.
Right.
And 50% is a big money. When you're talking crores, you are investing in lakhs. You are investing in lakhs every month or every year. In 15 years, you will have a corpus in crores, right?
Right.
And 50% will mean a couple of crores.
Yep. So my question to you is, there are various apps which are advertised which say that they don't take any commission on mutual fund. What is that? Is that a scam?
No, so there is a direct form of mutual fund, there is an indirect form. So in direct form, where you don't go through an agent.
Okay.
The fees is a little lower. So fees is like 1.8%, 1.9%.
Okay.
Okay. If you go through an agent, the fees is around 2.5%.
Okay. So it's about 0.5% difference.
Yeah. And 0.5% goes to the agent.
Okay.
And their mutual fund agent, as a mutual fund agent, if you have a 200 crore AUM, you are making 1 crore per year sitting at home doing nothing. Right.
So these apps, they are not really a sham. You can work on these apps to save that 0.5%. Is that correct?
Yeah, you can save 0.5%, but that's it. You are still paying 1.8%.
You're still paying 1.8%.
Yes.
Okay. So, and what is this term equity? Does equity mean everything that you invest, or it means a particular?
So equity, mutual fund is also equity. And then there's direct equity.
And then direct equity, right? And direct equity where you directly put into a stock market, right?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to ask you one question, and I'm going to go through the typical hierarchy that happens in the medicine, so that you can give us some idea about what we should do. So let us say a 30-year-old resident or a 28-year-old resident who currently makes, let's say, about 1 lakh rupees per month as a salary. What do you suggest to that person? That 1 lakh, he is barely able to sustain his life. Of course, he can reduce his quality of life and save some money. What do you suggest to him? Should he start investing now, or should he use it for his daily activity?
See, doctors is a very different profession. Right. So I would say, what are his personal goals? Okay. If he wants to become a good doctor and earn a lot of money after being a doctor, and he wants to work a lot for next 20, 30 years, then he should not invest any money.
Okay.
Okay, he should enjoy his life, and he should rise in hierarchy and get more patients and make more money after 10 years from now.
Mm.
And he should not bother about investing.
Okay. Okay.
See, everybody has and let us say take another doctor.
Mm.
Okay, now this doctor, he is making 1 lakh per month, but he is not confident that he will be able to work and go up the ranks in private practice and make a big private practice.
Mm.
He thinks that he wants a big corpus in 10-15 years.
Okay, so there he shifts his goalpost to talk more about financial security rather than professional excellence.
Yes. So for example, I mean, I'm taking my example, right? So I was also a doctor. I was an MD ophthalmology,
Mm.
and both from AIMS.
Mm.
I mean, even if today, I mean, I'm thinking of starting practicing part time,
Mm.
and if I start practicing part time, I will make decent money,
Mm.
right? But the point is that I said that if I get retinal detachment at 50 years of age,
Mm.
which is a possibility because I'm an eye doctor, I know I can get a retinal detachment any point of time.
Mm.
My rest of surgery life is finished.
Right.
Right. And the majority of my earnings will come after 45-50 years of age.
Yep.
So if I don't earn in the initial years and invest it, I am losing time value of my money.
Right. Right.
That time will not come back. And I have wasted that, I mean, for a professional excellence, which may not result in earning money at a later point of time.
Right.
So I decided that I will save more, earn more in the initial years of my life, build that capital, and once I have that capital, I can do anything I want. I can start an eye center at 40 years of age. I'm not yet 40. I can build an eye center at 40 years of age. Nobody stops me.
Right. So let me just go again through the hierarchy. Let me ask you another question. This is a doctor of age, let's say 36, 37 years. He's in private practice now, or a corporate job, whatever you call it. He makes about somewhere between 3 to 4 lakh rupees per month. And he has a family now, he has a little kid now. Let's take my example for that matter, or just take anybody like me or Praneeth or anybody. Now, what would you suggest to him? Just the same way we suggested a 30-year-old resident or 28-year-old resident, what would you suggest to this 36-year-old doctor now, who is making, let's say, 4 lakh?
Yeah, when you're making decent money, like 4 lakhs per month, you have a choice that how much to invest and how much to spend. Right? So, when I was earning 3 lakhs per month in McKinsey, my monthly earnings was 4 lakhs per month in 2010. Okay. My monthly expenditure was 25,000 per month. I used to save 90% of my salary. So I didn't spend initial 3 years. I was making good money, but we didn't spend money. We saved all the money.
Okay.
So it's your decision. So like your car you are buying, right? You can buy a 20 lakh car. You can buy a 7 lakh rupees car. Right? Now, if you buy a 7 lakh rupees car, you will get a little smaller car. Right? But you save 13 lakh rupees. If you invest that 13 lakh rupees today, you will get 1 crore extra in 15 years or 20 years time.
So what do you suggest though? Because, as you said that having money at age 55, 60 may not really mean a lot to you. So
yeah.
So what would you suggest to those guys? Should they invest 50%? Should they invest 30%? What?
It's a personal choice. How much you want to spend today and how much you want to invest for the future, and what's your opportunity cost. So I'll give an example. So I did an MBA after my MD, right? And I knew the markets. I know finance. I know how to study markets and the company. So for me, any rupee I spend, I know I can double it in 3 to 4 years. Right? For you, it may be that you can double it in 7-8 years by investing in mutual funds and debt. Right? So for me, I can say that instead of 13 lakh car, 20 lakh car, let me buy 8 lakh car, and I can double this money in 3 years, and then I buy a better car.
Okay.
But for you, it is a less. I mean, you double it in 8 years. So for you, I mean, it may be you may like to spend more money today than invest more.
Okay.
So, for example, let me tell you that if I tell you a stock that will double in 6 months' time,
Hmm.
will you spend your money or will you invest in that stock?
Yeah, then it's obvious. Then I'll invest in that stock if it doubles in
Yeah.
6 months.
So the shorter the horizon,
Hmm.
matlab the higher the return you are getting, the less likely you are to spend that money.
Okay.
Right? If you are making 5% in fixed deposit, then there is no point of. I mean, there's not much point of. You're not going to double, triple your money.
Right. Right. Right.
Right? But even then, you need to save a decent corpus for your, rest of your life.
Hmm. Right.
But then there is no point to be stingy. But if I
Right.
know that I can double my money in 6 months, I will stop spending. I will only do basic things. I will stop shopping. I will say I will stop after 6 months.
Right. Right.
What's the hurry?
Right. Vijay, I'll have Dr. Raghu give his thought. I think his hand is raised. He probably has a question or a comment. Dr. Raghu, please go ahead.
Sorry, Anup, I thought I'll just make a small comment. It's not against what Dr. Vijay has said. I, in fact, enjoyed his talk. A lot of insights into what investment in stock is. Since I'm nearly twice most of your ages, I thought I'll just talk to you about investment in general. A person with a career starts investing. Kindly remember that there are many other forms of investment which are not necessarily in stocks. I, in fact, thought that this talk was going to be on wealth management, but I thought I'd just make this comment before everybody jump onto the stock bandwagon. So basically, my greatest investment was in 1987 when I proposed and married my junior, a person whom I loved all through my life, and that was the greatest investment. And that's an abstract form of investment which cannot be equated with 20 crores or 40 crores. My next greatest investment was in a set of friends, and one of them was instrumental in getting me my dream house where I am currently located for a song, and that is appreciated 20 times or even much more than that. But the happiness that I have derived by staying in this house has given me far, far greater, which no amount of money can measure. Yet another great investment I consider is the investment I put in my children's education, which was considerable considering that I sent both my children to the US for their master's degree. One chose to come back, the other chose to stay, and both of them are having six-figure salaries. And they're very comfortable. They're happily married, which was another great investment because whoever they chose, I said okay and got them married off. And today I can say that I'm quite comfortable with whatever I have, and quite a bit of it in stocks, of which I agree with Vijay. I did make a lot of money on small caps, but what I would like to stress is, for everybody jumps onto stocks and thinks only about making money, the greatest problem with stocks is that you get greedy. And that's where I've seen a lot of people even say, sort of lose their shirt rather than make money. So say, suppose a person is at 30 years and he's earning a couple of lakhs or even a lakh and a half, as Praneeth mentioned. What is the first thing that he would invest in? His marriage, his children, and then possibly he should have a roof above his head. And once that is done, then his children's education starts. So if he's made enough provisions for that, that is the time when you start thinking about other things like stock or acquiring a greater part of real estate, which in our country has never failed. Stocks can fail, real estate has never failed. So I'm sorry if I've made a very longish comment, forgive me. I did not want to take away anything from Dr. Vijay's lecture. It was quite revealing and full of tips and I mean, basically, he was trying to explain what stocks are all about. So, please forgive me if I've taken you, but digressed a bit on the investment and wealth management thing. I'm sure you'll understand. Thank you.
So I agree with you, Dr. Raghu. And coming to real estate, so I haven't bought a real estate in my life till now. So I'm living in Bangalore in one of the best societies here on rent. And I was living in Delhi earlier. I shifted here 1 year ago, and maybe in a couple of years I will again shift from here. So if if you see Switzerland and Germany, more than 50% people live on rent. Okay, in USA, there are millionaires, really rich people who sold their home. I mean, they were living in New York in a $1 million mansion. They sold the $1 million mansion. They took it on rent, living on rent, and they invested that couple of $1 million in the stock market. Okay, so if you're financially literate, okay, if you know that your investments will work, and you have a $1 million home, okay, and if you know that you can double it in say 4 years, and your home will not double in 4 years, I mean, $1 million is a total life's earnings for some people. If people are earning 2 lakhs per month, I mean 24 lakhs per year, and if you multiply it by 30 times, total 30 years of work will give you 6 crore, 7 crore. And that can come from a single decision. Right. So, my brother in 2013, he bought a flat in Dwarka for 1.5 crore. Today, the value of that flat is 1.5 crore. 7 years have passed, 1.5 crore has remained 1.5 crore. Okay, in 2013, I mean, that was before Modi won the elections. 2013 to 2020, I mean, a good small caps, I mean, or even large cap, you should have at least doubled your money. And if you are a good investor, you may have money 4 to 5 times. Now the difference is like 3 to 4 crores. Now 4 crores is a life worth of savings. So it's a very, very big amount, and that difference comes in just 5 years. So investment decisions, I would say, are very, very, very big decisions. Somebody who is investing a 2 crore in a flat, and somebody who decides to live on rent and invest that 2 crore in stocks. That 2 crore can become 10 crores, it can become 4 crores, it can become 1 crore. But if it's good enough, that can at least become 4 to 5 crores. And while that flat, that remains 2 crore. So the difference is 3 crores. Now 3 crores is not a small amount. I mean, if money is not just for yourself. If you have 1 crore, you can change the life of 10 poor families. Money gives you power, right? You can. My wife, she comes from a village in Odisha. Okay, and there the people are very, very poor. Okay, if you have made 1 crore extra in your life, which you don't need, you can change the life of 10 to 20 families or even 100 families, with 1 crore rupees. So if you take the right investment decisions, I mean, you can change a lot of things.
Vijay, I'll interrupt you here, and then we're running short of time. We'll go through it. I'll do a quick comment for both Dr. Raghu and what Vijay you said. I think what you started with was a very important topic for all of us, which is that investment is a very personal choice and it's a very personal decision. And I highly regard what Raghu sir said, that a lot of times your investments are not really measured in a very objective way in terms of how much you earned and how much not. Like what he said, a peace of mind of owning a house may not be quantified in how much money you're going to get. And on the other hand, the counterpoint of that extra money, whether that peace of mind is worth, for some people it is, for some people it is not. But I think it is important for us to understand the implications of those decisions and then still take a valid decision, what makes you happy and what gives you a better life, be it owning a home or be it spending that money on your kids' education or whatnot. So I think they both are equally important. We are here to learn all the tips and tricks so that we understand how to make that decision. So Vijay, I'm going to ask you
sorry, Anu, can I just make one small comment, if you will permit
yes,
me?
Yes, sir. Please go ahead.
I forgot to mention that for this group, especially given budding doctors, budding cardiologists, please, as far as I am concerned, at the end of my probable professional career, I'll reiterate one thing. the greatest thing is the professional satisfaction of being in this profession. And
Absolutely.
that no amount of money, I repeatedly thought about going back, say 30 years in time. Would I have taken another profession? Would I have done things differently? No, I would not. The amount of professional satisfaction I get in this profession, no amount of money can buy. And so I exhort all my colleagues, please work to your professional satisfaction. And then all that Vijay has said can be put into practice. Thank you. I'm sorry again if I cut you.
Not at all, sir. Absolutely. That is very valid. So Vijay will quickly go through two more questions and then hopefully we'll close after that. So I spoke to you about age 28, age 36. Let me give you third scenario. A doctor at age 50, peak of his career, making close to 7 to 10 lakhs per month. How do you think that guy investing in terms of stock? Is he ready to take some risks or it is too late for him?
So older the age, the less risk you should take. Okay, one, you don't have more time also. Second, you don't have risk-taking capability. So the standard formula is 100 minus age. So if you are 30-year-old, 70% of your net worth should be in equities. If you are 60 years old, then 40% of net worth should be equity. So the older, so you know, there are funds in USA which reduce your equity allocation every year as your age increases.
Right. So they do it automatically.
Automatically, that's in US. That automatically they reduce your equity allocation every year because your age is increasing every year.
So where should a 50-year-old guy put his surplus? Because now he's making a lot of money.
So you know that also, no, it's not about money. See, monthly income is nothing. So you know, I mean, there's tax also. So you are paying 35% tax.
Right.
And then your expenditure also higher. You have 2 kids, they're going to college, so your expenditure is also higher. So net savings is not very high. I have, you know, client earning 2.5 crore per year, and their savings is not much because 1 crore they are paying in tax.
Okay.
And then they are earning 2.5 crore. Those say they have live in an expensive house, they have an expensive car, they have 2 drivers. Okay, so their you know, savings is not very high even after earning 2.5 crores per year.
Okay.
Okay. So the thing is, what is your net worth?
Okay.
It's not monthly income. So people very wrongly assume that if somebody is earning 10 lakhs per month, he's a rich guy. No, a guy earning 2 lakh per month can have a 10 crore net worth. And a guy earning 10 lakh per month can have a 2 crore net worth. Okay. So higher the net worth, higher the risk you can take. So somebody who is earning 10 lakh per month, but if he has a only 3 or 4 crore net worth at 50 years of age, that is nothing.
So at age 50, if somebody is at higher net worth, then he or she can probably think of putting more money to the investment side than.
Yeah, it is dependent on your net worth. You know how much money you have. If you have like if you have like 2 homes, you have 2-3 crores in 4 crores in real estate, you have 3 crore of fixed deposit, you have 2 crores in mutual fund, and you're getting 1 crore every year, then you can invest. But if you have only one home, you have only 1 crore, about 2-3 crores, then you don't have much money.
Okay. So where should that money be placed? Let's say at age 50, if I'm saving, let's say 2 lakhs per month, where should I put that money?
But what's your net worth?
My net worth, let's say, is, I'm just giving a guess, let's say my net worth is around 15 crores or something.
15 crores?
At age 50. At age 50.
1.5.
Yeah, 1.5. At age 50.
Then you can see 15 crores is decent money. So you can put everything in equity. It doesn't matter. I mean, 15 crores, let us say 10 crores in bonds. You are getting 60-70 lakhs of interest per year.
Okay. So
that is enough for the life.
Right. My another question is, what is a typical thumb rule? How much money should a person at any age put in a liquid fund so that he can take it out at any point? What is the thumb rule for that?
So, it depends. So, I mean, see, the main emergency you can have is a medical emergency.
Okay.
Right. So, I mean, in a medical emergency, expenditure can go up to 2 crores. Right. But the thing is, the stocks, they're 100% liquid.
Right. But then you won't get the money. You won't get the profit back, right?
No, you not get the money. So, I mean, if you have not been in profit till that time, see, you are investing from 25 years of age. By the age of 40, so let us say you have 10 crores.
Hmm.
No, 80% of that is profit only.
Right. Right.
You did not invest 10 crore on day one. You have been investing
Right.
for last 15 years.
What would you suggest to person who keep their money in their savings account?
So then you can open a saving accounts in IDFC. They give you 7% interest right now.
In IDFC,
Yeah, IDFC is giving 7% on savings account.
and no other bank is giving 7. How much SDFC is giving?
IDFC is giving 3%, 3.5.
SDFC is giving 3%. Okay.
This
Uh,
IDFC is giving the highest. I have my money in
IDFC is giving the highest.
IDFC only.
And what are the chances of IDFC going just like
No, IDFC is not
Yes
collapsing.
Bank?
No,
Not
no.
collapsing.
Even
You
Yes
don't
Bank
have-
hasn't collapsed. People haven't lost money in Yes Bank. Scheduled commercial bank, RBI takes the guarantee.
You don't have stock in IDFC. You are telling us to put money in IDFC, right? I'm just putting conflict of interest.
Savings account, not
Okay.
because there is opportunity cost. I have better stocks.
Right. What is your opinion about investing apps like Binary or Upstock or all this? Are those good apps? Or
Upstocks is like a brokerage company. I invest through Zerodha.
Okay.
So they're brokerage company. They're demat accounts. They're not investment company.
Oh, so Upstock is a demat account.
Yeah, Upstock it's like Zerodha. They give you zero brokerage trading account.
And is it really zero brokerage, or is it just marketing?
Yes,
it's a zero brokerage.
Yeah,
so
Zerodha is better. Zerodha is more reliable. Zerodha is #1 brokerage.
So you think that we all should at least think about putting such accounts so that we have
so you
zero
can
brokerage?
invest in mutual funds also. So Zerodha has mutual fund. You can invest in bonds. You can invest in a lot of things. You can invest in liquid Bs, liquid funds.
What is it called? It's called Zerodha.
Yeah, Zerodha, Zerodha.com. It's the #1 broker in India now.
Okay, and there you can do online. You don't really have to go through a broker or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, they give you zero cost account. I mean, their annual fees is there, 700 rupees or something, but brokerage is zero.
Okay, and you think that is something even the younger guys should start looking into? Somebody age 28, 30,
absolutely.
something? Okay, all right. Praneeth, you have any other questions for Vijay? I think we are running short of time, so we'll have to close soon. Any questions, Praneeth, or any closing comments on this?
Yeah, I think it's a too broad topic where we can get all our questions answered. But I think it's definitely a start where we can at least learn few financial language, at least the so-called getting financially literate. I think we need few more sessions where probably a lot of questions are there, and we also could not take too many questions from our audience as well. But thank you, Dr. Vijay, for that insightful thought. Definitely a Kickstarter for everybody to start investing and dreaming big. Taking inflation into account, and though looks intimidating, the 7-digit number should be the thing that we should be aiming for, and hopefully everyone will be putting their effort in the learning financial literature as well, and be or achieving the goals what they want to. So this is what I could think of. Thank you.
Thanks, Praneeth. I'll just tell you, in my training in the US, be it residency, be it fellowship, financial lectures were part of your curriculum. There were guys who would come, financial planners, they would come, and that would be part of your lecture series. So that is something you couldn't miss because it was considered as important as learning medicine as well. Not to say that you just become money-minded, but the idea here is you need to know how to manage your money. We are 12 minutes out, and I'm sure that we can keep continuing like this for the next 2 hours, and we'll still have more questions. But offline, you can connect with Dr. Vijay Pava. He has got a Twitter handle and his phone number, both of which I have listed on the chat box. So please save it and feel free to connect to him. I'm sure he'll be happy to get your questions, and maybe he can even help you in terms of getting your financial profile a little bit more. Dr. Vijay, any comments about these kind of sessions? How do you find interacting with doctors, and do you think this will help us achieve our goals?
So, I mean, I would suggest that, everybody should do a deep introspection of their own financial life. Most doctors and most people, don't think about finances too much. So, people, I mean, today you are earning like 2.5 lakhs, everybody is earning per month. So everybody has some decent money lying around. And investment decisions are big decisions. It takes 10 right decisions to become a billionaire. That's what, financial gurus say. If you take 10 consecutive right decisions, your 1 crore becomes 10 crores, 10 crore becomes 100 crores, 100 becomes 1000 crores. You can become a billionaire in 10 decisions. So each and every decision you take is very important, and you should spend a lot of time thinking where you are investing your money and why you are investing your money, where you are investing your money. And you have to yourself do it. Nobody else will help you.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Vijay. Maybe if I find more questions amongst my colleagues, then I'll have you for another session if you don't mind. And I will tell my attendees that if you do need to connect to him, please do that. And I'm sure you will get more insights. And again, I want to highlight Dr. Raghu's point as well, that while today's topic was more about strategic investments and all this, the investment itself encompasses everything from your life, from your personal to your professional to your finances to everything. And we really shouldn't sacrifice one for the other. So it is equally important for us to achieve professional growth, but at the same time, it is equally important for us to at least think about what finances are going on and then go from there. Dr. Raghu, if I could just get your closing comments and then we'll finish after this. Dr. Raghu, do you just mind giving us your final comments on this? Dr. Raghu, can you hear us? Okay, he's probably off his desk. Okay, in that case, if nobody has any other burning question right now, I'll close the session. I'll thank Dr. Vijay Pava for being with us for his time, and hopefully we connect with him sometime again.
Sure, Dr. Roop. It was a nice interacting with all of you.
Cool. Thank you, and thank you for the attendees, and have good night, all of you guys. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.